Hey, welcome to Graphic Policy Television, GPTV. I'm Brett. We've got a new game that's out, an expansion for the DC deck building game. Now, for those who've watched this channel, you know I'm a fan of the game. I have been since I first tried it out at Gen Con many, many years ago. Now, there's been tons of releases for the game, expansions that always shift the game and change things up, which is something I really, really enjoy about it. So now, in front of me is the deck building Crisis game. It's an expansion pack 3. It's for actually 1 to 5 players, ages 15 and up. Playtime is about 1 to 2 hours. Now, this is just an expansion pack, which means you need the main game to play, and you can use any of the 4 versions that are out so far. The basic one, Heroes Unite, Forever Evil, and Teen Titans. As long as you have the basic game, any of the versions, you're good to go with this. Now, the DC universe is in peril, and this time only the villains can save the day. Crisis Expansion 3 delivers new challenges and depth to all DC Comics deck building games. It takes some serious skills to save the universe. Are you up to the task? 6 all-new playable, oversized characters from the Suicide Squad, 14 impossible mode crime syndicate super-villains to battle against, and Crisis versions of 8 oversized characters such as Lex Luthor, Sinestro, Bane, and many more. There's 2 unique modes of cooperative play with faster gameplay. Includes a new hidden objective mode, new main deck cards for competitive players. Contents is 56 game cards, 14 oversized supervillain cards, token sheet, and rules. So let's crack this open and show off what is inside. I'm pretty excited about it. So as I said, I am a fan of this game. I play it actually pretty regularly. The overview for this is the crime syndicate has succeeded where many have failed, capturing the Justice League and conquering Earth. You cannot let their reign of glory stand. Ally yourself with other like-minded individuals of dubious intent and drive these invaders out of your territory. Now, for those who don't know the storyline, what's it sounding like is Forever Evil, which is actually one of the versions of this game. But basically the storyline was the crime and the syndicate from Earth 3 came to the main Earth, captured the Justice League, and Lex Luthor and a team of bad guys had to band together to take them on. So there's 2 different modes of Crisis play. This Crisis expansion features 2 different styles of Crisis mode play, full co-op and hidden objectives. Full co-op Crisis mode uses the oversized Crisis Super-Villains and the same basic structure as the previous Crisis expansions. Hidden objectives Crisis mode uses the oversized Suicide Squad Super-Villains. Your team has been tasked with taking down the crime syndicate, but members of your team often have their own agenda. Hidden objectives Crisis mode is mostly cooperative and more difficult than full co-op mode, as players will work together up to a point. Each player has a hidden objective card that will let them know what they need to do to win. There might even be one player working against the rest. Most hidden objectives require that the final supervillain is defeated, but before you can even check your victory condition, you will need to work as a team, but always with an eye on your hidden objective win condition. Shuffle the hidden objectives and deal 1 to each player. Read yours and keep it under your supervillain, and don't reveal it until the end of the game. Place the unused ones back in the box so one knows which ones are being played and not. Crisis mode is meant to be played with the impossible supervillains. Instead of always using typical 8 supervillains, Crisis mode bases your supervillain count on how many players are in the game. So, for example, 1 or 2 players, you have supervillains 10 plus, the Outsiders, and Mazda's Crisis cards is 11 plus, This World Is Ours. 3 players is 8, 4 is 6, 5 is 4. For shorter game length, cut the main deck down to 100 cards and reduce the number of supervillains and Crisis cards by 2. So let's crack open the cards to show off what's inside. So now, for those who don't know what a deck building game is, so a deck building game is a little bit different than like a collectible card game such as Magic. Where Magic, you go and you build your deck beforehand and play it out. The deck building, you actually wind up building the deck as you go. Exactly how it sounds like. You wind up paying for cards and by using points and stuff like that to get more cards, and then those go into your deck once you shuffle up, and you buy those or use those cards to buy even more cards, shuffling them up and adding them to your deck, and your deck grows. But the way a DC deck building game normally goes is that there's points for every single card, and you at the end of the game, add up your points as to who's got the most to win. So let's go through like the main cards. Usually these expansions, all these expansions, have cards to add to the main deck that adds a little flavor. We've got Black Orchid first. It's a hero that gives you +2 power, defense. You may discard this card to avoid attack. If you do, reveal and draw the top card of your deck. Gain VPs equal to the VP value of the card you drew this way. Interesting. Already a very interesting thing. We've got next up Nightmare Nurse. Gives you +2 power. You may destroy a 0-cost card in any player's discard pile. If you destroy a vulnerability or weakness this way, gain 2 VPs. That's what these tokens are for. They help you keep track of your victory points. We've got Frankenstein, also a hero, +4 power. You may pay X VPs. If you do, gain a card with VP value X from the destroyed pile. Kind of a cool card. We've got a location. We've got Nana Parbat. Ongoing. Once during each of your turns, you may pay 1 VP. If you do, choosing any number of players, each of those players reveals the top card of their deck and may destroy it. It's actually really handy, especially to get rid of some of the crappier cards or screw over your opponents. Level 7 is the next location. Ongoing. Once during each player's turn, you may pay 2 VPs. If you do, that player draws a card. Once during each of your turns, you may choose a foe, attack, steal 1 VP from that foe. Interesting. We got Superpower, Savagery. You get +1 power. You may pay 1 VP. If you do, +3 power instead. So we're seeing a lot with victory points here. Very different than previous games, which is what I like about these expansions, is they always twist things up a little bit. We've got Cat-like Reflexes as a superpower, +1 power. When you are attacked, you may reveal this card. If you do, draw a card. We got Chlorokinesis, superpower, +2 power, attack. Each foe reveals the top card of their deck. Choose any number of them to be discarded. Iced Over, superpower, +3 power. Put a frozen token on a card in the lineup and then gain 1 VP for each frozen token in the lineup. Remove it at the start of your next turn. Different way of scoring victory points. Villains. We're up to some villains next. Black Mask, villain, +1 power. If this card is discarded from your hand by a card effect, gain 1 victory point. Now we can see that playing into some of the other cards that allow you to discard. Next up, we got Shadow Thief, +2 power. You may put a discard with cost 0 from any player's discard pile into your hand. Interesting one. Copperhead, villain, +2 power. Add the top card of the main deck to the lineup. Attack. Each foe discards a card for each villain in the lineup. Joker's Daughter. Villain. Draw 2 cards. You may pass any 1 card in your hand to another player's hand. If you do, gain VPs equal to the VP value of that card. So, yeah. Next, we've got the Super-Villains. I guess we'll show them off. I'm not going to read what the Super-Villains do, because that's kind of part of the fun of the game. First up, we've got the Outsider. Atomica, Deathstorm, Johnny Quick. They're all Crime Syndicate members, for those who might not know. Grid. And for the more, we've got Nick Necro. Not a character I know about. Sea King. I don't remember Nick Necro. Blight. Felix Faust. Power Ring. See, I think some of these, the fun is not knowing these. Owlman. And what's Owlman without Superwoman? Ultraman. And finally, Crisis Mazes. So those who play Forever or not play forever. Read Forever Evil. You'll probably appreciate all the cards I just read to you, at least as far as those supervillains. Very cool to see them, and you better believe I'm going to want to go play against them. I think that would be a hell of a lot of fun. Play out a little Forever Evil myself. Alright, we've got objectives, we've got... Oh, we got more cards to add to the deck. And we've got Crisis. We're not going to read those either. We've got more equipment. I forgot about this. More cards that adds to the deck. So another hero. We've got Madame Xanadu. +2 power. Look at the top card of the main deck. You may put it on the bottom of the main deck. Porthole to Nowhere. +2 powers and equipment. Defense. You may discard this card to avoid any attack. If you do, draw a card, and you may pay 1 VP. If you do, draw 2 additional cards. Sniper Rifle equipment. +2 power. Attack each foe reveals their hand. Choose 1 card revealed this way to be discarded. Tarot cards. Choose any number of players. Each of those players gain 1 VP. +1 power for each player chosen this way. Boomerang. +3 power. Each time a foe draws 1 or more cards during their turn, you may reveal this card. If you do, draw a card. Alright, so some fun equipment that changes things up a little bit. Now, these I'm definitely not supposed to show off. Now, these are all the Crises that you can play in this game. You're not supposed to know what is going on with those, so I'm just going to show them off. We have A City Destroyed. Next, Abandon All Hope. Exposed. Hunted by the Crime Syndicate. Lost in Time. Murder Machine. Permanent Eclipse. Powerless. Psychic Static. Releasing the Prisoners. The Justice League is dead. The penalty is death. Trinity War. The world is ours. Really cool moments in the story. And finally, Villains in Control. So as we said, describing before, there's now a thing where people can play objectives. Get these nice cards. Now, I think the objectives first showed up in the Watchmen expansion. We're going to go through the objectives to kind of show off what the type of things are. We got A Friend in Need. You win if the player to your left completes their hidden objective. You check for a win after each other player has resolved their hidden objective for yours eye only. Break the Code. When the final supervillain has been defeated, if you win if there are at least 19 different letters in the names of the cards in your deck. 21 in a 2-3 player. Collector. When the final supervillain has been defeated, you win if your deck contains 40 or more cards, 50 in a 2-3 player game. Heroes and their Toys. When the final supervillain has been defeated, you win if your deck contains the following cards: 2 heroes with cost 3 or less, 2 heroes with cost 6 or greater, 5 equipment. Solo Mission. When the final supervillain has been defeated, you win if no 2 cards with cost 1 or greater in your deck have the same name. The Best Defense. When the final supervillain has been defeated, you win if your deck contains the following cards: 2 cards with cost 6 or greater, 2-3 player only, 4 defenses, and 3 attacks. Traitor. If the game ends because a card cannot be added to the lineup from the main deck and 2 or fewer supervillains remain on the stack, you win the game. Well Focused. When the final supervillain has been defeated, you win if your deck contains 3 or fewer card types. And Winner Among Thieves. When the final supervillain has been defeated, you win if you have more victory points than each other player. That one's pretty basic. That is kind of the game. As with all these expansions, the other fun is you get all new characters to play. So let's show off those. There we go. And we're going to discuss these cards. Alright, first up we've got Sinestro. Each time you avoid an attack, you gain 1 VP, pay 2 VPs, choose an attack player. That player avoids an attack. So, great character to avoid a lot of attacks. We got Bane. Each time you destroy a card with cost 1 or greater, a player, including yourself, owns, you may place it under this card. These cards may be used to beat Crisis cards. Interesting. Next, we've got Deathstroke. Each time you contribute to a Crisis, gain 1 VP, pay 3 VPs, destroy a card in another player's discard pile. Bizarro. Each time you attack a player, that player draws a card. That one kind of stinks. Though it could be awesome if your objective is to blow through the deck. We got Harley Quinn. Once during each player's turn, you may pay 1 VP. If you do, pass a card from your hand to that player's hand. Lex Luthor. Pay 6 VPs, place a random Crisis superhero or Crisis supervillain from outside the game into play in front of you for the rest of the game. Interesting. Black Manta. Once during each of your turns, you may pay 2 VPs. If you do, put a card from the destroyed pile on the bottom of the main deck. It's a pretty big one if you don't want to run out. Black Adam. Each time you destroy a card, including villains in the lineup, choose a player. That player gains 1 VP. Captain Boomerang. At the start of each of your turns, you may put the lowest VP value card in your discard pile to your hand. King Shark. At the start of each of your turns, if you have 3 or fewer VPs, gain 1 VP. Pay 3 VPs to get +1 power. Cheetah. At the end of each of your turns, if you bought or gained 2 or more cards during your turn, you may destroy a card in your discard pile or draw an extra card. That's a pretty awesome one right there. Killer Frost. Once during each of your turns, you may pay 1 VP or discard a card with cost 1 or greater. If you do, play a card in the lineup with cost 4 or less and destroy it. It's kind of a neat one. Deadshot. Once during each of your player's turn, if any player discards 1 or more cards, you may put a card with cost 5 or less from your discard pile on top of your deck. And Poison Ivy. The first time you play an ongoing card or a non-kick superpower during each of your turns, reveal the top card of your deck, leave it, discard it, or pass it to another player's discard pile. Overall, you get some really cool villains here. I always like the idea of being able to play some villains, so to get them in this, I'm not complaining. I think this is actually going to be a lot of fun. Yeah, so you can see who are the Crisis ones and who are just the regular ones. Yep. So overall, it looks like this set adds a hell of a lot to the game. It's not too shocking. Each set seems to do that. We're gonna play some games. We're gonna give our thoughts. Probably maybe do some play videos for it. And go from there. I mean, if you're a fan of DC Comics, if you're especially a fan of the Forever Evil storyline, I think this is one that you kind of have to get, especially if you got the DC deck building main game. As I always say, I love the game. We do have some gameplay videos on our channel that you can check out. I'm a big fan of it when it comes to deck building games. I think it's very simple. It's a great intro game for folks who might not be too hardcore into the concept of a deck building game, and especially if they like DC comic characters, bonus when it comes to that. So as always, thank you for watching. This is Graphic Policy Television, GPTV. I'm Brett. You can catch us every single day at graphicpolicy.com. Of course, we're on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, all Graphic Policy. If you'd like your own copy of the deck building game, Crisis Expansion 3, DC deck building game, we've got a link below. By purchasing through that, you help support our site. But as always, thank you for watching. Just doing that helps support our site. Until next time, keep it geeky.